Today I'm here with Lori Gottlieb, psychotherapist and author of the New York Times bestseller, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. Lori is also a partner with Rice Krispie Treats Love and Case of Kits. So you open your book with your own life trajectory, and you were ahead of your time because today kids are having so frequently and so many job and career changes, which you did, which you could tell us about. And then also I want to know, how did your parents handle that?
Right. So I took a very nonlinear path to becoming a therapist. I started off working in film development, and then I moved over to network television. And I got the idea when I was working on a TV show called ER about the medical world that I wanted to go to medical school. And it was one of those things where I think when you look at your kids and you say, you see them switching around a lot and they're in a good position. Like my child is in this great job doing, network television development, and then they go over and they want to leave and they want to go to medical school. And then I go to medical school and I get there and I realize it's not exactly what I wanted to do. I was really interested in sort of story in the human condition. And I felt like the new managed care model was not going to let me do that in the way I wanted to. And so I left medical school to become a journalist, where I felt like I could really delve into people's stories. And then later, after I had my own child, so now it's, I've been through many career changes. I decided that I wanted to help people to change their stories. And so I went back to school and I became a therapist. And I think that it's important for people to make choices where they're following what they want to do, but they're not impulsive decisions. And so, yes, my parents were confused by it. Yes, the people around me were confused by it. But I think as a parent myself, I would really support my child in really figuring out what is the right path. And when you look back in retrospect, you can say, oh, they're all very related to the same passions that I had, which were around story and the human condition. I just needed to find the right lens into it.
Yeah, I'm going to say as a parent, it's so much easier in retrospect. It all
Yes.
worked out so nicely. So what are you hearing right now from parents and teenagers in this really challenging time?
I think that people, of course, are very anxious. A lot of people are finding what's going on in the world very stressful. Parents don't know what's going on with their kids' school. Are they going to do remote learning? Are they going to go back? What does that mean? And so I think it's really important that we listen to our kids right now. And instead of trying to fix it for them or talk them out of their feelings when they say, I'm really worried about this, and we say, oh, don't be worried, that's not really validating what they're feeling, and it makes them feel even more worried because now they don't have anyone to talk with about what they're actually experiencing. So I think just 3 words are really helpful, which is tell me more. So when your kid says, here's what's going on, I'm worried about this, you just say, tell me more. It's not going to make them more anxious or more sad to talk about it. It's actually going to lighten the load for them.
I always worried in those moments that my kids would roll their eyes, like basically, who told you to say that? So is that something that you plow through if they do it, or that's not typically the response?
Typically, they really want to talk. They don't want to talk when they're being told what to do, like, here's what you should do about it. And all of a sudden they're very shut down. But if you say, oh, tell me about that, or tell me more about that, it's very casual. They want to talk. They love to talk if you give them the space to talk.
Okay, so if you could give us like a very brief overview of the book, because what I'd like to do is try to tie some of the points you make in the book to raising teenagers.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it is that we shouldn't be afraid of our feelings, right? So I think that with our teens, they're gonna be more open and they're gonna be more aware of what they're feeling if we model for them doing that ourselves. So the first thing is that we don't hide. We notice something's going on with your kid, like behavioral changes or something that you can notice. You used to have a very talkative kid and now they're very quiet, or used to have a very even-keeled kid and now they're short-tempered and they're arguing with you about everything. Ask them what's going on instead of just saying, okay, you have no tech time, or whatever you're going to do in response to that. Really get it. What's going on? I've noticed it sounds like you're acting different. What's happening? just really get to that with them instead of being afraid to sort of go to the feelings. I think the easier thing as a parent is just to say, like, here's your consequence, instead of saying, let's understand this a little bit better. I think another theme from the book is that we grow in connection with others. And I think right now, especially if we're kids haven't been really around their friends in the same ways that they normally are, connection is so important. So how can we help our kids to deal with the grief and the loss that they're experiencing from not having had those normal social interactions? And then how can we help them come up with their own ideas about how to stay connected in whatever ways are safe?
You have characters, clients in your book who are not so likable, and yet you say that you are able to find the humanity in every patient. As parents of teenagers, that is not always easy to do. How do you dig underneath the story that's in front of you and find their humanity?
I remember when I was training to become a therapist, one of my mentors said, there's something likable in everyone. It's your job to find it. And of course I thought, yeah, well, that sounds nice, but is that really true? I think sometimes when we look at our kids, we have to remember that too, when it's not their finest moment. Sometimes it's not our finest moment. And so really understanding that and, finding the things that you can hold on to in that moment, even if they are doing something that is pushing you away or that's very frustrating to you. And just remember that, usually again, the people want to be good. Kids want to be good people. They want to be their finest selves. And usually when they're struggling is when, those frustrating behaviors come out. So really, again, talking to what's going on right now. Have you slept enough? Have you eaten? Especially without having a regular schedule during the pandemic, a lot of kids, their sleep schedules are off. They're not eating at regular times. Their blood sugar gets low. They're having cabin fever, right? Can we go take a walk outside right now? Let's go do that. Just anything to kind of just get them to pay attention to not only their physical health, but to their psychological health.
All right, you talk about sometimes uncertainty is the best thing that happens to us. So you are primed to tell us how to navigate this right now.
Yeah. In general, I think humans don't do well with uncertainty, right? We want to know what's going to happen. We want to be in control. But I think sometimes uncertainty wakes us up a little bit. And one of the things that I've noticed during this time of uncertainty is that people are really noticing who and what matters to them and what's really important to them. So if there's a silver lining in all of this, I think it's that. And I think that we're noticing, let's pay attention to the people that we care about. Let's notice, let's slow down a little bit. And I think that's going to be really important as kids go back to school too, that we notice, we really are paying attention, and that the mood in the house, to remember, it's really contagious. If anything is contagious, it's the mood in the house. So if there's a lot of stress and anxiety in the house, that's going to spread to everybody in the house. And so, what can you do as a family? Can you play a board game for 30 minutes together just to lighten the mood in the house and have a relaxing activity that you can do together? Can you read a book together? Can you listen to music together? Whatever it is, that's not about, have you done your homework? Did you talk to that teacher? What's going on tomorrow? Just to have a little bit of relaxing time where it's not about all of the stresses that are going on around you.
You talk about how timing in therapy is everything, that you have to let the patient come to things in their own time. And to me, that's so relevant to raising teenagers, that it's all about the moments we choose to have the conversations, to point out something that we're concerned about. And yet we bring our own people into this story, and it's so challenging. Any advice there?
Yeah. Timing is really important, especially when you're talking about teenagers. And so you want to make sure that you're catching them in a moment when they're going to be more receptive. And this goes for, all teenagers. I happen to have a boy. And I noticed that with boys, sometimes when they're doing something, they're more receptive as opposed to, hey, let's sit down and talk, right? And so maybe you're just, playing a game, or maybe you're, sort of watching a show together, or whatever you're doing, just kind of sprinkle in the conversation there. often the timing and dosage. So a little bit at a time, you're sprinkling it in, and the timing is better when they're more relaxed.
So we're unrelatable narrators of our own lives. That is your quote.
Yes.
And parents of teenagers are often focused on their kids lying. Are those two woven together? Do our kids believe what they're telling us?
I think it's really important for us to have compassion for our kids, because they're human like we are, and so it's not necessarily that kids are lying. It's that we are all unreliable narrators, meaning that we're not necessarily purposely misleading, but we tell a story in a way that will serve us. So if your kid knows you're going to be really upset about something, they're going to emphasize certain details about the story and maybe leave out other details about the story, right? And so what you really want to do is you want to create an environment where they feel comfortable telling you something, even if they're going to disappoint you, because teens really don't want to disappoint us. And so they might do things that are disappointing to us, but how do we react to that? And so do they know that we're going to hold them accountable? Yes. But then also we're going to be compassionate about the fact that people are fallible and people make mistakes, and we understand that, and what can we learn from this particular mistake.
Last question. How can we support our kids right now?
Well, I think there are lots of ways to communicate with our kids. And one of them is, what I've talked about, which is sort of sprinkling into the conversation, noticing their behavior changes and really addressing those, asking them to tell you more. And I think also sometimes kids do well when they just know that we have them in mind. And so that's why I partnered with Rice Krispies Treats, because we created Love and Case Up kits for kids to know that we are thinking of them, we support them, we have them in mind during this time when they're going back to school. They might be stressed, whether it's virtual or in person. They might be stressed out about who are their friends going to be, or how hard is the homework going to be, or what's the first test going to be like. All of those moments. And what we found is that the things that parents think that kids are going to be worried about are often different from things that kids are actually needing extra support around. So any way that we can support them, we wanted to do. So we created these moments based on this survey of these are the moments that kids say they really need extra support. We gave suggestions on what they can write on these wrappers, and then you can write your own message, your own personal message to your kid. And just seeing that lets them know, hey, here's a little extra love. I have you in mind. I see you. I hear you. I understand you. I care. And I think that more than anything, that's what kids need at this moment.
Lori Gottlieb, author of Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. Thanks so much for being here with us.
Oh, thank you so much.